Well, here we are again, and it is 9:48. Oh dear, we took a little bit longer. That's because I had to go and pee. So I do apologise for that.
We don't need to know that, Stanley.
Do we not need to know that? Right. I didn't tell you. Now, we look around at this stage to things that are happening. We sometimes look behind the headlines. We look at bits and pieces. At 10 o'clock, we will find out what's going on over the road. So Max will actually discover for us what the big court case is.
Max is almost running across the road with his notebook.
Well, one of the barristers has just come out. So
doesn't he look smart?
Time, yes.
Doesn't he look smart? I love those little white things they wear.
Yes, little white bibs.
I think I've seen one of them blowing his nose with his.
We do have some interesting people coming up over the next little while. We are going to reflect the speakers forum that they have, Speakers Week. In June, we'll have a number of the people that are appearing there on, and closer to the time, we're going to be talking to the people that are restaging the Battle of Lewis, and also we have living in our midst a Nobel Prize winner, or a potential Nobel Prize winner, and he's going to have a little chat about what he's been up to.
Who's that?
Sorry?
Who's that?
You shouldn't have asked me that.
What's he Nobel?
Without my notes.
Nobel Prize in what?
I don't know. I just know that he's a Nobel Prize winner at the moment. Will you please not embarrass me by asking me details?
Max, can you help us out here?
But you're right. We shouldn't announce things until
actually.
We know the details.
I got a feeling. Sussex University had 3 Nobel Prize winners. One of them's died.
Right.
I think, because I remember going to one of the banquets they used to have, and there were 3, which was very unusual for a. It's not a red brick university; it's a plate glass university, Sussex, and there was 3 of them, which is very, very unusual. So maybe it's one of those, but
probably not the dead one.
Obviously not.
No. Well, hopefully not the dead one.
Well, it'd be very difficult for us to interview unless you're psychic. Oh, I can hear a message.
Right now, what I'd like to start off this little session is Ollie here is actually in his other guise is Stuart Dolby, who is the expert, and is a real expert because he's been ahead of the game on sustainable energy and the energy crisis and so on and so forth. And the funny thing is, that the war and pestilence and so on, they sometimes drive these things out of the headlines. So we haven't had headlines about energy. Doesn't mean to say it's gone away. So, Stuart, what is the latest on the energy front?
Well, the latest on the energy front is that Boris, he delayed and he mucked around, and finally on April the 7th, which is a Thursday, so we slightly missed it, came up with his strategy for supply, because there was this worry, because once Ukraine sort of announced that it was going to war, it meant that the price went right up, and therefore its strategy was that there was tremendous concerns about security. So they came up with a strategic document. And let me tell you, well, I won't go through it now because we'll be talking about it later. It is an absolute dog's breakfast. Boris seems to doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And it's really quite worrying, actually.
Well, now, most prime ministers would have people who are experts advising them. And if, in fact, it's a dog's breakfast, who's responsible for the dog's breakfast? Can't all blame it on Boris.
Why not? I blame everything on Boris.
including the icing cake of Christmas, I suppose. Yeah. Stuart, who would be advising the Prime Minister at this particular stage on the energy issues?
I've got no idea. Well, the one of the main ones is Dieter Helm, isn't it? Sir Dieter Helm, who's the energy professor at Oxford and Oxford. And it so happens, I've been to various of his lectures, and he's very counterintuitive, as I am. Counterintuitive means, in my case, because there has not been enough investment in renewable energy, renewables cannot meet the energy mix. That means they cannot cover the whole energy needs. And he says he thinks there's going to have to be a gas bridge of at least 15 years. But we're going to have to use gas. And when we come to my thing, I'll tell you exactly what it says. And that means that the whole notion about we're going to go, like David Cameron said, we're going to be the greenest government anyway. Well, he turned out to be as green as a bloody banana. And Boris's strategy document is supposed to be about the green economy. Well, it's about as green as a ripe tomato, and which is red, of course. So it's all mirrors, you know. It's all mirrors. He can't. He hasn't got. He clearly, with this document, he just didn't have time for it. Like other speeches, he just read it quickly, briefly, and then he comes up with nuclear has arrived. Well, he hasn't talked about Hinkley Point ever, in my knowledge. Now he's talking about all these bloody 8 of these wretched things all over the country. He's been talking about SMRs a bit, little baby, what he called little baby reactors. Oh dear, oh Lord.
Yeah. So all in all, the energy crisis, as far as the homeowner is concerned, is far from resolved.
Well, Kwasi Kwarteng, whatever his name is, he said it's going to be 5 years at least until energy prices or tariffs come down because of all these problems that have arisen.
Right.
And also, it looks like if the strategy is used, then we're going to be dependent on fossil fuels and nuclear. Well, nuclear power is not carbon emitting. That's the main argument for it. It doesn't emit carbon, okay? But otherwise, there are very deficiencies in it, and we're gonna be dependent on gas and maybe even oil. God save us all. So where's the green economy gone? Right. There just hasn't been the investment in. I'll go through this much more thoroughly later on, but it is worrying because, if we are going to reach carbon emissions, get rid of, the district council here has a target of 0 carbon emissions by 2030. I can tell you now they have got no chance whatsoever of reaching that target. Okay? So therefore, climate change, the whole thing.
Right.
Forget it.
Okay. Now, impact on the householder, the person who is sitting there looking at the latest bill in. What can we expect in terms of the price of fuel, if you like, energy?
Right. Okay. Last September, I was telling my friends and neighbours that their energy bills was going to go up. The energy cap is set twice a year, on April 1st and October 1st. Okay? And I said on October 1st, your bill is going to go up. Okay? And it did go up. It went up. 2021, the April one was 10% increase. And then I'm getting this wrong. 12 and October 1. No, the October one in 2020 was 10%, and then in April it was 12%. That was 22%, and then they put it up again they put it up on October by 12%. That was 22 pence in 2021, right? And that meant that the actual tariff became £1,277 a year for a 3-bedroom average household. Okay,
Right.
we roll around 2022. Martin Lewis, and he's a major expert, I'm a mini expert, said it's going to go up by £700 on April 1. And did it go up on £700? Yes. That meant the average tariff for a 3-bedroom house is £2,000 a year. Now, that is a lot of money for a lot of people. And we have got in this town fuel poverty. And as Martin Lewis says, what with inflation of food prices, people are either going to die of starvation or freeze to death.
Yeah.
And it's true. But that's not the end of it, because in October, it's actually predicted to go up by 54% because of the war partly because of the war in Ukraine. But gas price keeps going up, exponentially keeps going up, because there is this terrifying thing about gas security, that we're so dependent on Russia. We're not dependent on Russia. Only 5 or 6% comes from Russia. It's not like Germany, which gets 2/3 of its energy from Russia.
Right.
But it's a global price, so we're subject to that. So every time bloody Putin says something, the price goes up. And so we've got to find a security strategy, which Boris doesn't seem to be able to manage. And if it goes up again in October by 54%, that means you're going to be up to possibly £3,000 a year for an average house of 3 bedrooms. Well, members of the cabinet can afford that. A lot of people can't.
Yeah.
Well, you have got fuel poverty.
Well, my favourite theme is that they live in a bubble in Westminster and have no idea what we're going through on the ground. Perhaps that's slightly unkind. No, it's not. They tend to operate as they see it, and as they see it, doesn't really go much further than the Big Ben. Right. Okay, Stuart. Your Energy Matters will be with and Stuart is going to tape it later in the day. Max is his producer, and together they will turn out a definitive piece, a 10-minute piece explaining exactly what's happening.
We're just waiting now for somebody to come dashing out of the court.
Yes. No, it's actually 2 minutes past 10. Max, have we got anything?
I'll have a look now.
Well, back in the day, this bar was full of journalists waiting for results, and some of them got so pissed they couldn't bloody remember which bloody case they were dealing with.
That I can well imagine. It is interesting that we don't seem to focus on court cases as much as we used to.
Well, absolutely. Well, going back even further to Lord Kitchener, when he was doing the war, and the journalists were around, he says, "Get out of my way, you drunken swabs."
The two major court cases that have been focused on in the media recently is the Kyle Rittenhouse one and what's going on with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Those are the two main ones that most people are focused on.
I don't think they're being heard here, are they?
No. But no one, there's
something.
only really big people who ever get focused on. It's never small things like this.
Well, murders are not small things. Has somebody been killed recently? I can't think.
Probably.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's the mayhem in Southwark in the last 2 days, where a family has been stabbed to death. Four people stabbed.
Oh,
to
that's
death.
the Suffolk. That's up there, isn't it?
Yeah. But you mean in Sussex?
Yeah. There was somebody in Sussex, wasn't there? Or was that in Kent? I think it was something in Kent, wasn't there? Somebody killing you.
Well, let's just hope it was Kent, not Sussex.
Well, I don't think there's a Crown Court in Kent, is there?
Yeah.
There's got to be.
The two Crown Courts down here are Chichester and here.
Yeah.
Crown
Crown Courts can't do murders. I mean, no, magistrates' courts can't do murders.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Right.
Right.
Stuart, thank you. And you over the next couple of hours, You're very welcome to pop back in. I know that you've got to go and make sure that your lovely wife is okay. But we'll be here up until 11:30.
Yeah, we'll probably do the Energy Matters at 11:30, won't we?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'll see you soon then.
All right. Good to see you as always. And
yes, another fine mess, Stanley.
You got you in, yes.
I'll handle this, Stanley.
Right.
Right.
So, well, I mean, let's just sort of play something while they're farting around. He said.
There we are, Max. You can read that to your heart's content.
Thanks.
What's the name of your college?
DVA.
DVA. What was that now?
DVA.
It's a private college.
No.
Yeah.
right, start it all over again, chaps. Well done. Come on. Start off with Ho Chi Minh, because we need to go back to the little video we just.
Not many, as Michael Caine used to say, not many people know this, but his most famous president was Ho Chi Minh, the leader of North Vietnam during the wars, and he had been a pastry chef in Hilton. He spoke French, but it's not much good if you're in New Haven. But anyway, he was on the ferries going across the Dieppe, and he used to stay there in what's it?
Yeah.
And when you talk about breaking up the ring road in New Haven, the situation in Birmingham was like that. There was a bull ring, and it was just like a walled city, as you suggest. And Mrs. Thatcher, I think it was, got 35 million quid out of the EU to break out the bull, to actually break it down. And they had a conference centre, and then the hotels sort of were built around so forth. And it was a full square and a whole different sort of setting. And it made a fortune because all the hotels came for the conferences, and there was a big business going on. And the bull ring was no longer, and that's what can be done with a few bob from money.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
you can see what they could do in New Haven.
Yeah,
you can see, but it's a very small thing. But you can understand why it doesn't work, because you've got these cars racing around all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would seem to me that one of the reasons that a lot of people don't go into the centre of New Haven is because there's nothing in the centre of New Haven. A couple of pubs, and that's it. But it could be made to be very, very attractive.
Little artisan shops all around it.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 3 months last year, I suppose it was, in New Haven, just about this time. I got to know it a little bit. And like all sort of seaports, there are little gems. There is a wonderful pub there called the Prince of Wales.
Yeah.
That is so old-fashioned, and the people that run it have been there for 1,000 years, and are great old classic publicans, and it is very popular.
I'm a great aficionado of New Haven. I really am, because I like sort of run-down sort of ports and so on. And the thing is that they get quite a lot of the EU money as well now. Well, they were getting it. They won't get any more because of But I mean, if you know the West Bank basically was bought by the French to preserve their interest in the ferry, because if it all collapsed, then they wouldn't have a business, would they?
Yeah.
But on the East Bank now, there's a whole industrial development. It is an industrial port. It's it's not talking about a nice little,
cobbled streets and so on.
Yeah. But there's loads of things going on over there, and they've got the incinerator, of course, which was very controversial. But New Haven has got all kinds of things being done on the East Bank. See how that works out. But then, because it was only getting one boat across a week, and that was a banana boat from West Africa somewhere. Oh, a lot of immigrants there, mate. Smuggled on the boat, Bananas and immigrants, yes, they go together. And the ferries had a big problem because the port wasn't quite big for wasn't good enough for ports. I remember back in the 80s when my family, we were 11 hours at sea because the ferry couldn't get in. So that needs doing. And I have noticed recently they've been storing oil rigs off the store, sounds weird, but they've got oil rigs over there. So it is becoming what it was, which is an industrial port.
Yeah.
It's not a tourist port. It's not a tourist port. I love New Haven. I like going there.
Well, actually, there was a big hotel, a famous hotel, until the 1960s.
Yeah, I know that one. Yes, I know the one you're talking about.
Right by the station.
Yeah.
But do you know who the most famous resident there was?
No.
The man who broke the Bank of Monte Carlo.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, yeah.
And he would return to this hotel and live the lifestyle until he'd run out of money, and then he'd go back and break the Bank of Monte Carlo again.
Goes will all declare what he's the man who broke the Bank of Monte Carlo.
Actually, I mean, we look at the history.
Did you know that the River Ouse used to go through Seaford?
Yes.
Back in the day, in the 15th century, there was a few storm. That reverted to New Haven, wasn't it?
Yes, there was a big storm.
Yeah, and there was some idea that Seaford was going to be the new Brighton. It was going to be just like Brighton, was it? But it never happened. And New Haven, right, they got that thing. And I can remember once going out before the French bought it, but sitting on the West Bank with my wife Stephanie, my then wife Stephanie, and our daughter Elizabeth. And I liked swimming, so in New Haven, you can dive off the beach because it's a deep water. So I dived off and that's my little head, and I could just see Stephanie and Lily sitting up against the wall there, and I thought, we're the last people in the world. There was no one else there. It was me in the sea, my little head bobbing up, waving. I thought, we're the last people in the world. It was just like one of those occasions, that you happen in life. It was really good. But I always used to like going there.
Is it?
I used to think about it. I might write sort of a book about this because I was influenced by Get Carter. Do you remember that marvelous film by Michael Caine?
The original one.
Yeah. Where it was an industrial seaboat, and he got shot, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I thought, that's New Haven's like that. It's a sort of rundown industrial, what's it? And then somebody in my imagination, on the right report, somebody actually got killed. Anyway, look, I'll let you go on. I'll see you in about an hour, yeah?
All right.
Thanks,
Stuart. Good to see you.
Yeah,
thank you for your wise words on energy. And we'll now carry on with perhaps one or two other things. What did you do with my newspaper?
Actually, you're going to be here, aren't you?
Yes.
So I'm going to leave this.
Yeah. Oh, there. You stole the newspaper. Can I please have the newspaper?
Yes, certainly.
Because one of the things that we're able to do this hour is look behind the headlines to some of the things which we've forgotten about a little bit.
Actually, as I am an alumnus of the Financial Times, I get this for free. I get it online for free. But as I can't do online, I buy it and give it to John May, who's a campaigning friend of mine. Well, the other thing about the FT, it has the most wonderful pension scheme.
There you are. If you're a journalist, don't go for the fame and the glory. Go for the pension. Go and work for the FT.
Yeah. If you can.
If you can.
Everybody wants to work for the FT. It is a paper of the day. Everybody wants to work for it. Jeremy Paxman, he's very ill now.
Right, Max. You have started on a project to do a sort of a program. As you said last week, what you thought you could do in a week is taking a little longer. So how about giving us a progress report?
Well, it's finished.
Aha.
It's all done. Put all the editing in, voiceover work. It's all done. You originally said, I'll give you 8 weeks to do this. And I said, 8 weeks? That's ridiculous. That's such a long time. I don't need 8 weeks. And you said, okay, well, you can do it in 3. And you were definitely right with having some extra time to do that. I did not realize how long that was going to take. And all the filming you had to do. I did like an hour of raw footage for 7-8 minutes of content. But But yeah, it was a lot longer than I expected. Yeah. It's pretty good. I think it's all right. And it's on Lois, so it's local.
Well, we're waiting with bated breath. So can you deliver it to us so that we can show it?
Yeah, I believe I've already emailed it to you.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I need to. Max is our conscience. The bits and pieces that we should do in terms of admin and don't is Max will actually part of his role here is to say to us, have you done this, have you done that? So in fact I haven't looked at that particular email for some reason, but we will download it today and we will show it tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, good. We'll look forward to that. That's Max's video. Do you want to tell people what it's about?
The show's called Hidden Beauty. It's on Lois. I went around to all the beauty spots in Lois. So I went up to the Lewis. I went to Lewis Downs. Went up to the castle. Went down a lot of the Twittons. Got some good footage there. Went to the river. The River Ouse, did some filming around there, lots of animals and stuff. There's a certain park just up the road from here, or the big hill at the end of the road.
Right.
It's a park name. I can't remember where it is, but it's got a really nice white curved cliff that comes down. It's in like a bowl shape. Something like the shape of a bowl. I've forgotten the name of the park now, which is really annoying me. But that was a really nice spot. I really enjoyed filming there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the important thing is that Max is not from Lewis, so it's Lewis being seen through the eyes, if you like, of a stranger, which I think will give it a different perspective, something new, rather than trotting out the old stories, as it were.
It was only 3 months ago was the first time I came to Lewis, even though I only live up the road near Hayward Heath. So I don't know how I've not been here before. It's very nice. I love it here.
Well, Max is now at least for the foreseeable future is on our books. He's part of the team, so we'll be seeing a lot of him, and he will be seeing a lot of. And you'll see him scurrying around from time to time. So do give him the time of day. The more that Max knows about this, the better. Now we'll do away with that, and we'll try hard not to leave the microphone off this time.
Yeah, we're not going to do that again.
No, we're not going to do that again. Let's see what we've got here. Just to show.
Do you know what this is?
I have no idea at all.
Oh gosh, playing completely.
Call me Mr. Keith. Well, in 1940, they didn't call me anything because I was baby Keith, baby Bunting, and ready to face the first decade of my life, which was 1940s. Eventually, in 52, when we start Jubilee celebrations, I was at school at Bishop Vesey's. In that first decade, before I got there, we were at war, or at least we were suffering from 1945 on, the effects of war. So I was only vaguely aware, as I went past rubble, what bombing was all about, what transport it had taken, or the privations of the people as they saw war vehicles in the streets, and very little in terms of comfort, the things that we would appreciate today, at the pub and travelling by bus. These are all vague memories for me. And the planes overhead. I remember once saying to one of my great aunts, "Aunt Lil, why did God make Germans?" To which she made the reply, "Hush, child, hush." That was the life in the 1940s, the 1950s. And then off I went They call me Mr. Keith, to grammar school. Oh, the winter of 1948, that I do remember. One of the fiercest on record. Then to Bishop Beatty's. What a life. What an interesting life as we enter Jubilee year.
There are not so much about me as that period of 1952 onwards, because we are celebrating the Queen's. Is it still the Jubilee?
Yeah, I don't know how old.
Yeah, well, it's 52. It's 75 years, isn't it, that she's been on the throne? And 52 is when she came. She was her father, the late King George VI, died, and she came to the throne. But it was 1953 that the coronation took place, when there was a lot of celebration for street parties and lots of bunting and all sorts of things which were special. And one of the interesting things is the coronation was the first ever to be televised. And I actually met the cameraman who was winched to the top of Westminster Abbey and put in place with his camera, and had to stay there for 48 hours. I didn't dare ask him how he managed to stay comfortable. But
Or use the toilet.
Exactly, yeah. But it just so happened that there was a big debate about whether, in fact, the coronation should be televised, because the royal family has always gone on mystery. It has tried to maintain a mystery so that we all wonder what life is really like in the fairy tale land of Buckingham Palace.
The Queen is the longest reigning monarch in this country. Well, is she one of? She's got to be the one. Is she the longest reigning monarch in the world?
If she is in this country, then I think she probably is. Yeah. I mean, Queen Victoria was pretty close, but our Queen has outlasted even her. So I think the answer is yes, but you are a famous researcher, so as we come up with questions, so you'll find the answers. So you can let us know in a moment or two. Now, I said to Max, one of the things that we like to do is to chat about things that younger people find important. So Max is just actually looking through one of the papers to see whether there's something that catches his eye that isn't mainstream, that isn't a headline, is by the same token of considerable interest to him and his generation. What do you come up with, Max?
Well, it's not interesting to my generation. I didn't think about it like that, but I did find this little taken out. The doctors are being told that they have a duty to see.
And I think that it's a very good it's a very good topic. Nowadays you don't necessarily see the same doctor because the pundits argue that the computer system is all notes go onto your file, and any doctor anywhere in the world can tap in and take a look, which is fine in theory. But I've also talked to medical people who say, look, medicine is about knowing your patient. that you talk to them and you know basically what's wrong, but you can see whether there are any deviations or any further treatment or how that treatment is working and so on, because you are talking and looking at the patient himself. And with this system that is in place now, doctors don't. In fact, quite often you're diagnosed and given a treatment plan without ever seeing the doctor. And I personally think that that's a very odd one.
It's not how it used to be. And it's concerning as well, because so easily you can be misdiagnosed and misprescribed even. Being given the wrong type of drugs that's extremely easy to do over the phone.
Does that article tell you whether there is any resistance to what they're being told? There normally is.
Of course there would be. It would be something like, oh, but COVID, what about COVID? Gosh, that's... I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
My reading skills are.
Yes, just skimming through it. But you can bet your bottom dollar that will be some resistance to seeing patients face to face because we've been moving away from it.
I know plenty of people who haven't seen the doctor in person for two and a half years now. We've been doing this COVID stuff for 2.5 years.
Yeah. Well, I stamped my little feet because I said, and I'm sure that there are others who have the same thing, is I have a letter somewhere tucked away that says, because I am over a certain age, that I have the right to a dedicated doctor. And actually, I have a dedicated doctor. I know the doctor that I have complete and utter trust in, and that I like to see on absolutely everything. But I have to fight to see her now. And obviously the receptionists haven't been told that this system exists. Because when I say, I want to see my dedicated doctor, they go, whatever. If you are over, I think it's, well, they keep moving the goalposts, of course, but if you're over 65, I think you get a dedicated doctor. But most certainly if you're over 75, you do. And that is because you need that extra care. But if, in fact, the medical profession have forgotten that exists, and you're not as stroppy as I am when I go in to see the doctor. Having said that, I do bring a smile to their lips. I'm stroppy in a sort of an amusing way. I don't get vicious or nasty with the girls, but all in all, is the way that medicine is applied. I agree with this, that the doctor should be able to see you face to face, and it should be the same doctor if possible. Who knows?
Did it used to be you had one doctor and that was it? Is that how that used to be?
Yes, indeed it was. But I mean, I'm trying to remember the local surgery as you would go in at 6 o'clock or whatever of an evening, and you would sit there, and the green light went on, and then you would go, and out you would come, and there were cottage hospitals, there were all sorts of local facilities, which have been taken away as globalization smacks in. And the globalization has been, and I'm delighted to report this, because too many people are reliant upon globalization. It is basically discredited. And I think it was you that asked about Davos. Yes, the World Economic Forum, where
I'm surprised how few people know what the World Economic Forum is.
Right.
You're right.
Yes. Go ahead. You're surprised what? Sorry.
How few people know what the World Economic Forum are, and Davos, the families who run the world, essentially, the banking cartels, the Rockefellers, people like that. Like, no one really understands what's going on. I think globalization is actually a big threat we are facing.
It's a very unusual situation. It's quite secretive in many ways. Is that the great and the good? I think presidents like Bill Clinton would show up there. I don't know about our own prime ministers. The Queen, I don't think went because
Justin Trudeau is a young World Economic Forum leader.
Justin Trudeau,
right now, and many Parliament members in the UK. Not Boris Johnson himself. Though.
Yeah. No, there are certainly lots of world leaders, and it is one of the great meeting places of those in power, those who are running very successful businesses. So it is difficult to criticize what happens there, but nonetheless, a joint thinking quite often doesn't necessarily come up with solutions to major problems. And if I may say so, I was in Canada as a journalist in 1972, 73, 74, when Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre, was prime minister, and there are things there where so-called social justice, for instance, ensuring that the native Indian, First Nation, or whatever we're supposed to call them now, is once again ripping up the English language, but they didn't have to apply for planning permission to build shopping centres and so on, particularly on the land granted to them by the, quote, if you like, victorious white government. And the unfortunate thing is that now, quite often, is in the middle of some urban development, is the native Indian will say, "Well, hang on, we can put up a tower block here." Oh no, you can't, because the planning. Well, it's not subject to it, and nor are they. While I'm quite sympathetic to trying to make life easier for those people that we dumped on, as it were, it can also cause problems. And Trudeau was Trudeau the father was a great aficionado of that sort of revolution, if you like, which is now not playing out at all well amongst the non-native population. Let's put it that way, because it stops or interferes with so many public service operations and projects. Trudeau is a World Economic Forum leader. Okay, now let's just. I'll tell you what. We normally take a breather by taking a look at one of the pretty places in Lewis, but also not only pretty, but historic, and it is. Right. Here we are. Max is muttering. He's looking at the paper. Is there something else that has actually appealed to you? That the inside pages. You know, the funny thing is that we tend to ignore the inside pages, and yet they come up with some really, really good little stories that we should be aware of. Now I will tell you one story that has appealed to me this morning, and I only actually noticed it because I put the paper down and I hadn't read it carefully. And that is that they've just experimented with putting a little microchip into the brain of a sufferer of Parkinson's. I suffer from Parkinson's, and I have to say that while I'm very lucky in many ways, and the positive thinking has helped me to fight it, it is a degenerative disease. You get a little bit worse slowly, I suppose on a daily basis, but certainly on an annual basis. If I take stock of what I could do this time last year and what I can do now, I'm aware that I've gone downhill a little bit. Some people who know me would say, Keith, you've gone downhill a hell of a lot. But they say that this implant seems to have worked. That it, for instance, this man found it difficult to walk 50 yards, and now he can actually walk 2.5 miles or 3 miles. I find it difficult to get to the bus stop at the moment, mostly because this disease seems to have affected my back. I'm not shaky in the sense that I would spill a drink. There are other little manifestations. You probably notice that I sometimes have to think twice when I'm ready to speak, because it does actually slow down your mental processes a little. Because the thing that it's here, the motor box that shows you how to lift an arm or blink an eye is here, and so far we've got dopamine or dopamine, or however you pronounce it, that is a pretty good drug, but nonetheless it doesn't achieve all things. If this microchip works, and who will be able to get it, I have no idea. But if it works, it will be a real breakthrough and a real help in trying to put sufferers of this particular disease. And there is no cure. There is no cure. The pills that you take can help slow it down, but not. So certainly there is a little microchip now that can be inserted into the brain, and it will help.
Neuralink.
Neuralink is called. Yeah, right.
That's also Elon Musk.
Hmm?
That's also Elon Musk.
Or is it?
Yeah, that's his company.
Ah, right. Well, there we are. We've got Twitter to thank for a lot.
We really don't. We don't have Twitter to thank for anything.
No. But that was one of the little items this morning, and all in all, that's the sort of thing that escapes into the back pages. What else can you find there?
I've just found this. Okay, this is actually kind of upset me now. That's annoying. One of the things of my generation that I absolutely despise is cancel culture. Have you heard of this?
Cancel culture?
Yeah. People just cancelling things because they're too offensive. Or things people say, you can't say that, therefore you have to be taken offline. No one can see what you say ever again. Biff and Chip books have been cancelled from schools. This is a book that helped me learn to read, not well, but these are the books I read in primary school.
Yeah.
They've been cancelled for Islamophobia. They've been taken out of all schools.
And you can hear how articulate Max is and gets over his points, but he is dyslexic. So he needs some help of various sorts. And if that's helped you, right, carry on.
Yeah. So these are the books I read in school, and that did help a lot. And they were a favorite of everyone I know. Everyone remembers the Biff and Chip books from when they were at primary school. They're very big. They were the main books used. It says here a book from the Biff and Chip collection has been axed for complaints of racism over a description of Muslims. In one of the episodes, so I've briefly read through this. So in one of the episodes of the book, they are in a Muslim country and they have to help a princess who's being chased by people. And because they described the locals as, what was the exact word? Unfriendly and scary, all books have been taken off because of this one book.
Yeah.
They've all been erased.
It's the book burners.
It's the book burners. When have the book burners ever been the good guys?
Yeah.
Never.
No, you're absolutely right. And there is an editorial in that paper, the Daily Mail today, that says that the woke generation are actually destroying an awful lot of what we have found to be a rich part of our heritage, and only because they find it offensive.
So
90% of people don't. They find it offensive.
Yeah.
So we're catering to them with destruction.
You probably remember from 2020 riots, people were tearing down statues. Even in Brighton, a Queen Elizabeth statue was torn down. That was ridiculous. There was a lot in America. Even people like Robert E. Lee and people like Abraham Lincoln, his statue was torn down for being a racist. Abraham Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves, is a racist.
Yes.
Sure, yes. I mean, he was born in the 1700s? Of course he's going to be racist. He was born in the 1700s.
And actually, he owned slaves.
He did, yeah.
In fact, most white, if you like, Americans were slave owners because that's the way that you got the economy revolved around cheap. It wasn't free labor; it was cheap labor because you didn't need to house them and make sure that they were well looked after. But it was cheap labor.
It was the norm back then.
Absolutely.
It's like when we complain about China and their human rights abuses. I'm not going to give up my phone, even though I know it causes human rights abuses. We're not going to give up our technology, are we?
Exactly.
Same with the people back then. Yeah, they were saying slavery is bad, but we're not going to give up our slaves until he came along and freed the slaves, and then had his statues torn down for being a racist. It's like,
yeah. I mean, these statues were reflective of the way that people thought, and one of the things that I have completely failed to understand the logic is that you pull down, or students, or some students pull down a statue at a university at which that statue was erected because the man put the money into the university, and the fact that he was a slave trader, quote racist, bore no relationship to the fact that a lot of that money went into building that university.
Do you remember what was the one? The one in the UK. There's a statue torn down and thrown into the harbour.
Oh yes, in Bristol.
Yeah, into the Bristol harbour. he was a slave trader, but he also built Bristol as we know it today. He funded and built a lot of the infrastructure that started that city. And because of what he did in his past, you have to erase the history because what he did was bad. Again, I cannot stress this enough. The people burning books and erasing history have never been the good guys and will never be the good guys in history.
Yeah. Well, let's just look at what the slave trade did here in East Sussex, because the MP for Lewes for a number of years was a man called Jack Fuller. Jack Fuller was his parents were born on were married on the Hamsey Island, which is almost a ghost island now. It's a tiny little village. The story of Hamsey, without labouring it, is that the residents caught the plague, bubonic plague, and that they, rather than pass it on, they built a blackthorn thicket around the village, so that nobody could get in and nobody could get out, and that eventually they all died of starvation. That was Hamsey. Anyway, Jack Fuller was left at the age of 21, plantations in the West Indies, which made him a filthy rich man. And there is just down the hill from here, there is a Fuller's Passage. There are a number of things which are named Fuller. And there are people here who are well known to be relatives of Fuller. In fact, after doing a bit of research on Jack Fuller, I said to somebody in church one morning, Susan, are you related to Mad Jack Fuller? Oh, my goodness me, how can you ask such a question? She said, of course we are, and proudly so. But Mad Jack Fuller was an aficionado, a supporter anyway, of slavery. He was quite vocal about it and joined the debate on the side of slavers when, in fact, there was a movement to try and give it up. But Mad Jack used his money in a very interesting way. First of all, Eastbourne would not have either a lighthouse or a lifeboat if Mad Jack Fuller hadn't donated some of his money. He also saved Bodiam Castle, which today is a showpiece. And it was Mad Jack's money that saved it. Also, there is still an observatory here, not too far away, that Mad Jack supported. But the intriguing thing about his support for various things in the community was that he gave what today would be modest amounts, but were huge amounts in those days, to two pioneers of science. One was Davy, the man who invented the miner's lamp so that miners could go safely underground. And the other was somebody called Faraday. And Faraday invented something called the Faraday's cage. Do you know what a Faraday's cage is?
Is that to do with mining as well?
No.
I don't know that.
No. In fact, the reason that I've left it till last is it was a way of stopping radio waves from permeating certain walls and so on. And what came out of that was the ability to use light waves. And light waves, sound waves, being able to be focused. Mean anything to you?
Yeah.
What?
Well, you just what?
Yeah. Right. Television. What we are doing now came out of Mad Jack Fuller's support of this man called Faraday.
Right.
And Faraday, to all intents and purposes, invented television. In fact, he didn't. The modern television, of course, was invented by another local man, I think, somewhere along the coast. And I think his name is Babbage. But
his name was what?
Babbage.
Babbage.
I think somebody Babbage, if I'm not mistaken. But and even then, I haven't got that quite right. But you see, we wouldn't have television today if slavery money hadn't been put in. I don't notice these people necessarily attacking television stations or telling people they shouldn't have a television set in the house. So there you are. That's a spin-off of the slavery issue and where money sometimes comes from and what we should and shouldn't try to stop or deny the existence of. Nice story.
Yeah,
Mad Jack Fuller. He also built a number of follies, and there are towers scattered around East Sussex, and nobody is quite sure why he built them. But it is said that, for instance, during the Napoleonic Wars, if the French were going to invade, he could go to the top of the tower and watch it. Or if there was a victory in France, he could go to the top of the tower and he can he could say with some degree of authority, I know what's going on. But finally, he was the squire of a little village not too far from Hastings called Britling or Brightling. And in the churchyard in Brightling is a mini pyramid. And that is Mad Jack's tomb. And it is said because he enjoyed his glass of port. He enjoyed playing cards. And it is said that Mad Jack is still sitting there with his cards and his glass of port and waiting for somebody to burst into the tomb and find him still actively playing his cards and drinking his booze. In fact, it has been proved that he's not there, which is sad. But the tomb is still there, and it's along with a lot of his other follies. So there you are. That's Mad Jack Fuller. There are many Fuller stories, but there is one which relates to where we're broadcasting from, and that is the White Hart Hotel, because his election as Lewis MP was very controversial, and there is some suggestion that a few bob may have passed hands to make sure that he won. And his opponent took this hotel as his headquarters, and Mad Jack took the Crown, which is over there. And on the night of the election, they actually yelled abuse at one another across the street here, from a hotel balcony to hotel balcony. And right, we just have it from Kevin, and he says that the picture quality is still dreadful.
Yeah. I think I know what that is.
Do you think can we fix it?
Yeah, I can get it fixed for the next one.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. I actually did watch on my phone yesterday, and it seemed to have settled down. But I've now got my expert here, and we'll look at that and try to solve that for tomorrow. Thank you very much. And also, let me say the fact that you take the interest to tap in to us, we're also grateful, because Kevin Kramer is one of the giants of broadcasting in Lewis. And there's very little that has gone on here without Kevin Kramer being part of it. Right. Okay. I think where are we? 10:59. Goodness gracious, we've only got a half an hour left.
Yeah,
Is your right? Yes. Oh, yes, it is. It's very poor. Yeah. So we'll have to look into that.
Well, yeah, it's very jumpy.
Yes, and also very fuzzy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bit like the one that we're looking at.
Not the one on our screen is perfectly fine, but when you tap into any other devices, it's terrible.
Right. Okay. Then, and we need to look at that because we don't want to drive people away.
No, I'll get that sorted.
Okay. Well done. Well done. Right. Okay. Now we just had a nice. Let's have a look at Susan's picture. I like Susan's picture. Right, there's a little look at Lewis first thing in the morning. I'm sorry that the picture quality isn't all it should be, but we're certainly going to take a look at that and see what we can do to improve it, because there is no point whatsoever in delivering something to you that you find difficult to watch because you'll turn away. And I think that one way or another, we have one or two interesting things to say. And also, Kevin Kramer, I've invited Kevin to come onto this program. I hope he will, because he is a very interesting character. Also, Mick Symes, who runs Lewis Present on the Facebook page for Lewis. They are all very knowledgeable and all very interesting, and we hope that they will bring their knowledge not just once, but frequently, because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to our town, Lewis. So one way or another, we have an interesting morning. We had three of us. I had the four of us. I thought that perhaps the cover. I can't reach the paper at the moment, but let's just recap for a moment and see what we might well. Right. Let's just go over the news headlines or the front pages, as it were. Again, because it's been some time since we did, and there are some key issues. The Guardian is a DJ named Westwood. I must confess, it doesn't mean much to me, but he was a long time DJ, and he seems to have not been very nice with the ladies over 25 years, and now there is some complaints being made, and he will face charges of, well, I suppose sexually interfering with ladies over the years. I'm always just a little bit worried about his charges that go back over the years, because the morals of the day and the morals today under which a lot of these charges are made were totally and utterly different. And I think that we just have to be very careful that I'm not saying that you mustn't if something really naughty and nasty was done, like Jimmy Savile, but you have to be a wee bit careful that you're not pillorying somebody because they did what's perfectly acceptable at the time and wouldn't be acceptable now.
That ties back into what we were talking about earlier with it was perfectly acceptable to have slaves back in the day. And people who say Winston Churchill was a sexist and that's why he's bad. It's like, yeah, he was a sexist. He was born in the 1800s. What did you expect?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be quite honest with you, I was born in 1939, and in my early years, up until the age of 14 or 15, we were very much into empire, the British Empire, and nowadays to think in terms of empire is very naughty. But I'm not going to apologize because I was raised in a time when we believed in the might of the British Empire. A friend of mine from Canada came over, and there was a lovely shop in Lewis called the 14th century. I think it's the 14th century bookshop, and it's in a very old house just along here on the high street. And it has very unusual old books. And he said, I am looking for a copy of the Boy's Own Annual to give to my nephew so that he could see the sort of thing that, he was a Canadian, by the way, the sort of thinking and reflection in comic books and children's reading in those days. And sure enough, he found a copy of the Boy's Own Annual for 1936 or 37 or something. And inside the inscription was, dedicated to the boys of the empire on which the sun never sets.
Now that sun is set.
Well, I can remember in school, we were shown, particularly in my early days in school, we were shown maps of the world. And it was pointed out that there wasn't many places that wasn't pink. And they were either members of the British Empire or of the Commonwealth. And now, of course,
genuinely, we're showing that exact same map, but where in pink is, we're told that it is racist. What we did, we went and colonized.
Yeah.
Sorry, colonized. Wow, I'm terrible at speaking today.
Not a bit of it.
Yeah, no, we're told it's racist. What we did back then, colonizing other countries, and taking their history. We're showing the same map, but told completely opposite.
Yes, I mean it's all very well, but the Britain of today wouldn't be the Britain of today if we hadn't. We're an island. We still are an island, and the trading as a nation was very important. And if you didn't actually have the source of goods, and then once manufactured, the export potential, you had nothing. And it is interesting that particularly in Elizabeth I's time, is that it was Spain and France, to some extent Germany, all vying for the colonies. And it wasn't just Britain, it was empirical. So the view that being empire builders, which in some ways the Russian Federation was, well, the Soviet Union most certainly was, and there is a modern example, if you like, where, as Stuart was pointing out this morning, is that Vladimir Putin wishes to recreate the old Soviet empire, the Soviet Union. And that is part of his modus operandi, part of his objective is to recreate the Russia that was. I don't know that we don't really try that in this country. We try to establish influence in a different sort of way. But, very good point about colonization. Okay, we are, and we always start to wind down at about this time because well, it's 11:10. We've still got a few minutes to go. I was just going through the papers again, so that people are aware of what the issues are of the day. Sunak faces a cabinet pressure to cut tax. Which tax he's going to cut, I don't know. But the government is beginning to realize, at long last, that it is not easy for anybody at the moment to live with the economic pressures that are developing, partly through COVID, partly through the war, partly through economic circumstances. So we in many ways, we have to understand that today is not the same as yesterday, is not the same as the day before, that there are many things that are done in the name of progress and will be the name of progress, and that has cost us. So the Chancellor is being told, cut taxes. Actually, one MP this morning made an impassioned plea for it, and as he pointed out, and in fact, I mean, this was Margaret Thatcher's main policy: is you cut taxes, you increase profits, you increase the wealth of a country, because the money that is going on taxes is quite often used for reinvestment and so on. Okay, so Sunak faces cabinet pressure. Now, I think that there are some things which, but then again, you know, there are so many cars. You're a motoring expert. Have you got any estimate of how many people own cars in this country?
Probably the majority. I don't know. The vast majority of people. I don't know. I'll do a fact check.
All right. Yeah. Because we sat here this morning, and Stuart said, "No, I don't have a car. I don't have a car. Max doesn't have a car." So to us,
I'm going to get one soon, though.
All right. Very well. But the annual MOT is they're talking about cutting it so that it's not, once again, it lowers the cost of owning a car. But I wonder if it's really very much that we make any difference. But the reason I've asked Max to check out how many cars is it could make a hell of a lot of difference. Sitting here, not owning a car, who would say, well, it's not going to save me any money. So there were the three of us here this morning that it wasn't going to save. But then again, we don't want to live in a bubble.
What's the UK population? It's 60.
It's about 64 million, isn't
64. It? There are 36 million cars in the UK.
Wow.
But then a lot of people are children, a lot of people are old who can't drive anymore. So most people who are able to drive do drive.
Right. So are you saying about 30 million people have cars and drive?
Well, there are a lot of people who have multiple cars. 36. So that's like for every person, it's like 0.6 cars.
Right.
36 point.
Yes, you do the mathematics.
Oh God, no, I'm not going to do the maths. I'm good actually.
Anyway, it was easy for us to sit here and say, well, that's insignificant, but it may turn out to be quite a significant suggestion for easing the burden of the cost of living. Is that you don't have to pay? I don't know how often you have to have an MOT. Is it once a year, twice a year?
Once a year.
And that costs you, of course. And now, if they ease that, it would be something off the family.
It seems like a weird thing to get rid of because MOTs are kind of important.
I don't think they're saying getting rid of it. I think they're saying they would reduce the number of times. Yeah. But I agree with you.
MOT is just to make sure the car is safe on the road and so it can be insured. So that's a strange thing to set back. Just, I don't know. Seems odd to me. When I'm prime minister, I will cut as many taxes as possible. I will cut taxes on everything by at least 50%.
Well, I mean, you'll get my vote. But nonetheless, I think that I do understand that our national taxes are a very complicated effort. You can reduce taxes, but if you actually reduce them to the point where you haven't got money to pay for the services that you're providing, then once again, you've got a problem.
I think a lot of things should be privatized. I don't think the government should own things the government has monopolies over a lot of things, and the government isn't going to check itself for corruption, whereas private companies can be. It's too long to go into right now, but I've been thinking a lot about this recently. I think the vast majority of things should be private, except for police, fire department, maybe healthcare.
So some things the state should look after. I mean, in many ways, I think that Stuart is right that Margaret Thatcher got it wrong when she privatized energy. That it isn't something that sits easily with the private sector. Having said that, you will not remember the railways prior to privatization. Yeah, I mean, they were dirty, they were filthy, they didn't run on time. I mean,
that's the thing. That if it's the government, it is a monopoly. Okay, if they have a monopoly over the train system, you can't boycott the trains. You can't say, "Well, I'm gonna boycott the trains because they're doing a bad job. They said this public thing, they're always late." You can't boycott the government. Whereas there are lots of private train companies. You can say, "Well, I'm not going to take Western Rail. I'm not going to take the Victoria Line. I'm not going to take this specific train service because of how they act and what they're doing recently. Maybe there's some human rights issues." You can boycott them because it's a private company. You should go somewhere else. With the government, you can't. It's a monopoly.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Actually, the trains. The one thing that I would say about privatization of trains, I mean, for instance, Lewis to Victoria, prior to privatization, prior to 1980, whatever it was, there was one an hour, and you were lucky sometimes if it was one an hour. Now we have at least 2 an hour, and sometimes in heavy periods even more. So that
right now it's 3 an hour.
Is it 3
because
an
that's
hour?
the train I get to get home.
Right. Okay.
That line.
So we are well on the way for understanding the difference between what it was like. The only thing I would say is that in the days of a pre-privatization is you would get onto the train in Lewis each morning, and you would dive into the buffet where you could get a nice hot cup of coffee and you could get bacon sarnie.
Bacon sandwich on the train?
Oh, absolutely. That was a favorite. And in the evening, you got a gin and tonic, and nobody cared whether they stood all the way home, because it was a sort of a forum for conversation and so on. And you got to know your fellow passengers. That has disappeared. And to me, that is a humanizing part of travel. Travel now is all about how to get people from point A to point B, with maximizing the amount of money that you can actually get from people who are ready to get onto a train and go zoom.
Yeah. Well, actually, on that, so there are a couple of different train lines that run through here. There's Gatwick Express, Thames Link, and there's one other. I can't remember. Southern Rail. If, say, those three companies, say if the Gatwick Express had a onboard cafe, everyone would take the Gatwick Express.
Yeah.
Because that's what people would want to go to. So it's also good having multiple ones, because people, then they can see what people really want, not just what people are saying they want on like Twitter or something, because that's what they get most of their advice from. People on Twitter saying, I don't like this. And they are not the majority.
Right. It is coming up to 25 past. And who has come back? Who has come back? But Ollie. So come and lean in over our shoulder and say goodbye to the folks. And we're within 3 or 4 minutes. So come and lean over. Tell us what you've been up to while you snuck out. You villain, you.
Snuck out? What do you mean snuck out?
You snuck out. Snuck away.
It was all too much for me, you see. All this fame in the television, I didn't want to know. Because I remember when I was in Ireland, I didn't like people to know I was on the television, you see. And I used to go up on the train from Dublin with the smugglers up to Belfast. So one day somebody came up to me. You see, and he said, I know you, don't I? No, I know you. I'm sure I saw you on the television. I said, no, I didn't. It wasn't me.
Would that have been an issue if they knew that you're on the TV?
Well, these smugglers were a bit picky about who was going to go up there. I might have been a cop, sort of.
Okay. All right, we'll say hi. Bye.
Bye. Anyway, bye everybody.
Are you going to do your program today, or do you want to do it on another day?
No, we do it today.
You do it today, right? Okay. Well, in that case, we will not hang around. We are 11:23. I think if we cut ours.
Give me a few minutes. I've got to just check.
We'll be on back around 11:45, I would say.
Yeah, right. 11:45 with Energy Matters. So a full house this morning. Lots been talked about. Lots of interesting issues, and I'm happy to say that we are having some issues in some parts with the picture that you're receiving at home. But hopefully we'll be able to
try to sort that out
to get that. It could be that perhaps we've got to boost our.
Yeah, you see, it's only one bar right now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the issue.
So
we're too far away from the Wi-Fi.
We'll see how we
will sort that later. Yeah.
Right. Well done. Good. Let's say a goodbye. We are not bound to go the full 2 hours, and in fact we don't, because we start because we try to distribute these programs as quickly as we can. We don't necessarily stick religiously to the timing. So thank you for being with us. On behalf of Max and Ollie, aka Stuart Dolby, and myself, Stanley, who is a fine mess you've got us into, Stanley. Thank you for being with us, and we are now going to say toodle pip, and we will see you tomorrow morning. It's been a bit slow to get started. We expected that it would be. We've now come across a couple of technical problems, which we will start to look at and see how we can handle and improve. And thank you for people like Kevin Kramer, who is dipping in and noticing that the picture isn't all that it should be in its delivery. It's certainly okay on our system. But anyway, we will try our hardest to be a good television service and join us each day, Monday to Friday, from the White Hart, from 9:30 till 11:30, and see what crops up. We're getting busier each day as people realize that we're here and that we are have all sorts of things to talk about that are of interest locally, of interest internationally. Cheers.